Getting a book as a gift is both a blessing and a curse. On one hand, it is a very meaningful gift, especially if the gift giver has read it and enjoyed it and wanted to share that experience with you. On the other hand, it can cause extreme stress and anxiety in some people. It's me, I'm some people. Look, my TBR is just about as lengthy and slow going as it gets. I read maybe one book a month if I'm lucky. So when I just received 9 books for Christmas / my birthday, I was very grateful, but I was very worried. So this year, instead of letting myself worry and get caught up in the guilt of not having read all of these books that were given to me, I'm gonna read them right away. Starting with the most fitting cover for this wintry occasion, Innocence by Dean Koontz. This is a book gifted to me by my dad because he read it and really enjoyed it, and I'm also gonna cash in on another benefit of getting a book as a gift, and that is talking about the book with the gift giver. So look forward to both mine and my father's thoughts on this novel. The other thing that this is going to do for me is take away the stress from reading. I am setting aside my TBR completely and just reading this book because I want to read this book. It was recommended to me by somebody who I trust to have good taste in this sort of thing, and I am just going to enjoy the experience. So join me as I embark on this quest to actually read a book that I got for Christmas. Alright, to be completely honest with you, I am already about halfway through this book. I'll talk about it more later, but I feel like with this book, I've just been enjoying it. I don't know, it's been a while since I just read a book to read a book. So yeah, I've already read a lot of this book, but I let myself get at least 100 pages in before revealing that fact to my father, and his response was so worth it. It was very sweet and heartfelt. I told him that I was reading the book that he got me for Christmas, and this is what he said, and I quote, "Oh, you're actually reading that?" Clearly, he did not believe in me, but I'm doing it anyway. So how do I feel about this book so far? At least the first half. Well, I feel pretty good. I don't think good is a good word just because of how sad and disturbing the book is, but I'm really enjoying the reading experience. Honestly, I'd be cool with a 5-star rating so far. And it does start out a bit slow, but I think that does serve a purpose. The concept of this book is not very easy to describe, so he kind of does take his time explaining the situation and the world. It sounds a little weird when you just describe it quickly, but pretty much it's about this guy. He's born looking weird, I guess. When he's born, the midwives are like, "Oh, do you want us to kill it?" And then his mom keeps him alive. But when people look at him, they get this very strong urge to kill him, especially by looking at his eyes. And that's very interesting because the same eyes are also what allow him to see things that normal people cannot see. He calls them clears and fogs, or like ghost kind of things that he can see. But I like the way it's setting up the world. It felt at the beginning like this is going to be just a little story about this guy. You're never going to learn like what he is. But as you go along, it's a lot of weird coincidences that are too convenient to be coincidences, and it seems like there's a little bit of destiny at play. There are a few other important characters in this book, but there's pretty much one that's kind of on the same level as the narrator, and she's so weird. It's too much of a spoiler to explain entirely why she's so weird. Just her origins and her look are so weird. When she's introduced to the story, it goes from being about this solitary person that can't go above ground because when people see him they want to kill him, to this like murder mystery, like honey business scandal. So it's weird, but for some reason it works for me. Like I really like it so far. Obviously the book is saying a lot about innocence. Like this guy, the main character, is like the most innocent person you've ever seen, but everybody immediately wants to kill him upon seeing him. Like this guy is thrust into the sewers for his whole life. His father was murdered in front of him and he still does not hold contempt for normal people for hating on them so much. It's really beautiful. It's haunting and creepy, but in a comforting way. Me personally, I like a little interpersonal story about, characters just being characters. I think it's a very interesting dynamic because he can't be seen or else people will want to kill him. And then the other main character, the girl who I said was very weird, her thing is that she has a social phobia, and that's not what makes her weird. That's a character trait. She hates being around people. She cannot stand being touched. That enough would have been good for me. Like it would have been a great book if it were just about these two people with kind of opposite problems that had the same consequences, but instead it's kind of going towards something really big and cosmic, and I'm kind of into that too, so I'm along for the ride. We're gonna see what happens in the last half here. I'm sure this will all make more sense later, so I'm just gonna keep on reading, and then once I finish the book I can finally talk to my dad about it. I'm very excited to see what he thinks. First things first, let's finish this book. The plot starts to get a lot bigger in part 2. You've got a lot more characters, a lot more disturbing anecdotes. This is where you get to hear the full stories of the murders of our main character's fathers. And that's not a spoiler because that's pretty much the first thing that you know about both of them, that both of them had their fathers murdered. One of them because he had the same condition as the main character Addison, where when people looked at him, they just really wanted to murder him. And then the other main character, Gwyneth, her father was murdered because this evil art thief wanted to cover up his tracks completely, and on top of being a fine honey connoisseur, Gwyneth's father was also involved in the fine art scene of New York City. And that's about all I can say about part 2 without giving really big things away. So if you want to go read this book on your own, spoiler free, you can skip to this next section where I'm talking about just reading in general. Otherwise, the big reveal of part 2 is this storyline about a little girl. So 3 years in the past, apparently this man found a 3-year-old girl in a dumpster, beaten up and abandoned completely. He takes the girl to the hospital, but then it turns out she looks to be completely brain dead. Everyone decides that the mysterious unnamed girl is going to be taken off of life support, but then this family hears about it and decides that they're going to take her in. This family has their own really traumatic and awful backstory, but I won't get into that here. But this family is also close with Gwyneth, and they've got their own life support station set up in their house to keep this little girl alive. I'll leave that storyline there. What I will mention before we move on is this freaky little detail that is freaking me out. I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but it's Gwyneth's look. It kind of takes me out of the story every time I hear it, but she's always talking about her goth look. What's weird about it is that when Addison first came to the city at the age of 8 after being kicked out by his mother, he saw this marionette in a shop window. Naturally, when I think marionette, I think the one from Five Nights at Freddy's, and it freaks me out. And it's like the very first thing that he remembers after entering the city, which is coincidentally also the same night that Gwyneth was born. But he turned and saw this marionette, felt this extreme sense of dread, and then he could have sworn that he saw it move towards him, and then he ran away before it could do any damage. And Gwyneth's goth look is identical to the face of the marionette. It is uncanny. A single tear painted on her face that matches the exact one on the marionette? No thank you. Gwyneth claims that her look is meant just to scare people off because she has her social phobia and hates being around people, but that's kind of a weak explanation for being the spitting image of somebody's worst nightmare. And on top of that, she plays the song on the piano for Addison, but he recognizes it because he used to hear it coming from an unknown location while he was living alone underground for 6 years. And she just looks at him and goes, "I wrote that piece entirely and it has never been played outside of this piano." Like, how is Addison not freaking out? But it's good. This book is good. It's just the right amount of freaky and suspenseful. Before I tell you about the last third of this book though, I want to talk about reading. I've gotten a lot of comments on my speed reading video about how speed reading is pointless and ruins everything good about reading, and I find myself largely agreeing with that sentiment. That video was just a fun challenge to see how fast I could read and comprehend stuff, and you should definitely check it out after this video. But I think it does reflect a negative trend in the reading community, especially online. It feels like we're all just reading to say that we did. It's funny how reading used to be seen exactly like phones and video games are seen now, like a brain-rotting vice that the younger generations have become addicted to. But in the modern world, reading has become a very positive thing, and almost toxically. It's a badge of honor for some people to show off that they read 100 books this year, and then other people get mad and jealous about that, and it really does seem to take away from the core of the thing. Reading is such a great opportunity to meaningfully engage with complex topics, differing viewpoints, and unique perspectives. And you can do all of that while doing probably the most relaxing activity in the world. But when the focus is on the fact that we read the book and not how we felt while reading the book or what we learned or thought about while reading the book, everything gets a little messed up. Who am I to talk, right? I read books publicly on the internet. This one feels different though. I've genuinely been going to bed earlier just so that I have more time to read before I go to sleep, and my focus has not been around finishing this book no matter what, and that has been my focus a lot in the past. I'm actually just really into it, and if I need motivation to get back into reading this book, it's not coming from having another book to put on my Goodreads or having another video to put on YouTube. It's about having somebody that is just waiting to talk about this book with me. Anyway, I'm loving the book so far, so let's see what part 3 has in store. It's getting real and weird. Some people in reviews were complaining about the constant flashbacks, and at this point in the book, pretty much it is just flip-flopping between present day and then flashback scene. And I kind of get what they're saying now, because things in the present day are getting really complicated and interesting. And then every time a flashback comes up, I'm like, oh, do I have to read this right now? It's always worth it by the end of the flashback chapter, but it does kind of take me out of the action. And then in my reading notes, I just have a note that says, bruh, why isn't Gwyneth telling him anything? I'm mad. There was a bit of an annoying portion in there where Addison would just be asking a bunch of questions and Gwyneth would not be giving him any answers. She did kind of have a valid reason for it. But part 3 starts with the reveal of the... Oh, I should probably put a spoiler warning here. This far into the book, most things are spoilers, so you can go ahead and skip to the end if you want to be spoiler-free. Otherwise, part 3 explains everything. First, the marionettes. I might have mentioned it earlier, but Addison has this unique ability to see these figures called clears and fogs. Clears are the nice-looking ones that glow, and then fogs are the evil, smoky guys that inhabit either people or objects with malintent. So you want to avoid those objects that are inhabited by fogs, those evil entities. Keeping that in mind, there was also this artist that was very popular in the abstract scene until he randomly pivoted to doing just realistic portraits of marionettes. He then handmade 6 wooden marionettes and proceeded to kill his entire family and then himself. So these existing marionettes are pretty evil, and Gwyneth is on a mission to destroy them all. She is such a mysterious person. Fast forward to the end, the guy that murdered Gwyneth's father is now threatening to murder that little girl on life support, but he also has this terrible illness that was apparently engineered by this vague group of people, and the illness spreads like wildfire and is gonna wipe out all of humanity. Crazy twist ending, I know. So they save the little girl, the murderer succumbs to his sickness, and then they meet up with the one person who can tie all of this together. Teague Hanlon is the person that became Gwyneth's guardian after the death of her father. He's also a priest and the only person who was ever able to look into Addison's father's eyes without giving in to the impulse to kill him. Addison did not know that Teague Hanlon was the same priest that knew his father, but it is revealed right here at the end. For some people who read this book, what comes next kind of ruins the whole thing, but for me, I kind of liked it a lot. It's revealed that Addison's face doesn't make people want to kill him because he's like hideous or scary looking. It's actually the fact that looking at Addison reveals to you all of your own faults, and the weight of that guilt and insecurity is too much for people to bear. The way that the priest puts it, Addison was born without the stain of original sin and is therefore a pure and innocent person. Some people say that this reveal is a little preachy, but I don't think so. There are religious leaders in this book that are painted as bad people, so the author's clearly not being like, yes, this religion is correct about everything. And Father Hanlon's theory that Addison is some sort of person that is kind of born outside of the consequences of what happened between Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden is just that. It's a theory. But obviously there's something huge and important going on. There's this giant congregation of clears and fogs and a huge storm, and everybody is getting wiped out by the plague, and the only people not affected are Addison and, surprisingly, Gwyneth as well. Turns out that Gwyneth is the same kind of thing as Addison, a pure and innocent soul, and the social phobia thing was just a way to cover it up, as was the makeup of the marionette. It was a way to make her look scary and counteract the effect that looking at her would have otherwise. And that little girl, she wakes up from her coma, and it turns out that she is one of them as well. So they all escape the city and start a new life in the countryside, and then all of the rest of humanity dies. Just all of them. Then the last 20 pages, in a complete shift of tone, they are just living in this new kind of Garden of Eden, living with all these animals in harmony. There are no more predators, there are no more prey, everything just lives off of these delicious fruits. This is live footage of me finishing the book and my reaction. So I finished the book, got a lot of thoughts churning. It was a complete 180 at the end there. So weird. But more on that later. Let's discuss with my dad. Welcome to the Dad Book Talk Corner. This is my dad.
Hi.
How did you come to learn about this book, and what's your experience with it?
It's one of the few books that I've actually read twice.
Whoa.
So I read it once for fun.
Okay.
And then I used it for an assignment when I started a PhD program. I think I gave it a 4-star.
I agree. It's also a 4-star rating for me. So how much do you remember the plot of this book?
I think I remember it pretty well.
What stayed with you from this book?
When we find out what it is about Addison, I think that's an amazing twist and a really cool take on humanity.
Do you think most people would react the way they do react in this book? Or do you think you have more faith in humanity?
I think I would have answered that question differently some years ago.
Going downhill now?
Yeah, I think maybe he's onto something there.
Shoot. Do you remember the names of fogs and clears?
I do now that you mentioned it, yes.
Do you think those are direct names for angels and demons, or do you think it's something more specific to this world?
I think it's specific to that world.
I like that viewpoint.
Innocence and evil.
Yeah. Do you like what this book says about innocence?
I think it's one way to think about innocence and the opposite of innocence. What's interesting to me are the ways people react to the main character and how their reactions are never kind of nuanced, right? They're not scaling. They're just immediately like super violent.
Very interesting.
Yeah, except for a few really decent people.
Yes. The priest at the end, he's revealed to be the one that kept Addison and his father alive for so many years. What do you think it says about him that he can look into the eyes of these, pure innocent people?
Yeah, that particular priest just had the faith and the willpower and the ability to control himself.
Let's see. Let me read through here. So Addison picks up a penny that he found in the street, and he's like, this is a lucky penny, I'm going to keep this. But then his father's like, that penny's not going to bring us luck. Even if it had been $1 million, it would not bring us luck or change our lives. What happens to us is of our election, and therefore we have more hope than luck could ever provide. Do you agree with that sentiment, that free will is more powerful than luck or
absolutely.
circumstance?
Yeah. Well, than luck, yes. Circumstance, maybe
That's
not.
different.
I think it's don't count on luck, but it's also a lesson for Addison that he's got to face the reality of his life among other people. Circumstances play a huge role in a person's trajectory, and so that there's not necessarily equity or justice for everyone in the world. And I think it's extremely difficult to just decide what you're going to do and do it in this world, because there's a lot of stop signs, there's a lot of people blocking your way. And a lot of people get to where they get to because of who they know and where they come from and what their circumstances were. So
throughout their whole adventure through this one night, they just keep running into these awful people that got to where they are by being terrible people.
Yeah.
I don't know if you looked over your essay again when you sent it to me. Have you
I
read
did.
it?
I did a little bit, yeah.
Yes, because I read the whole thing. Do you have any takeaways from your essay you would like to repeat here?
In doing that assignment, I found that you can make an argument for all sorts of different ethical theories, but the conclusion you make from that argument, especially when you apply it to something like this, is what is the world you want to live in? Is the ethical decision simply that of utility, where people do things for the right reason but have no sense of emotion or goodwill or ill will, just that's the way it should be. I think my favorite theory of ethics has to do with the ethic of care, where you try to think about how the decision you're making, the action you're taking, is relative to caring for others.
And that's kind of the attitude I feel like Addison has. He's always about other people.
Yeah. And even though he's seen the worst in people, he still gives everybody a chance. It's more of a really cool thought experiment. Like, what if we were faced with someone who, when we saw them, we recognized all of our failings and lack of innocence. And I think about his mom especially.
Yes.
Who was able to deal with it for 8 years.
8 years.
At the beginning of the book, you're like, wow, she turned out an 8-year-old.
Right.
But then when you get to understand, you're like, wow, she made it 8 years.
Any other strong feelings about this book that you have?
Well, I think Dean Koontz is thought about in the same circle as Stephen King. He does horror, he does thriller, he does a lot of that darker stuff. And this book, I thought, was a bit different for him. And that's what I like about it. It's challenging. It makes you think. The way he writes is amazing. I think he's a very good writer. I recommend it to everyone. I'm glad you read it.
Yeah. I'm glad I read it too. I actually did not record myself reading a single time, which is
very unusual.
It's very unusual for me. Usually I need the reading time glasses for the videos, but every time I picked up this book to read it, it's because I wanted to. Oh, I wanted to give you a platform to promote that reading app that you use. That's better than Goodreads.
Right. It's called Storygraph.
Storygraph.
It has a website and an app. There's absolutely no advertising.
None.
Completely usable in the free version.
Okay. And it is not owned by Amazon.
No.
We are not sponsored, but...
No, Storygraph.
Storygraph.
Yeah. Are you on there?
I will be after this. Thank you for coming on the channel today.
You're welcome.
Yep. All right, have a good one.
You too. Atticus Fina, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that little segment as much as I did. Drop a comment saying Atticus's dad is so cool. He will appreciate it. So maybe this book was a 4-star read, but being able to read it right away and connect with my dad over it, that's a 5-star experience all the way. I love reading, okay? It's an infinitely better brain break than scrolling because it's relaxing and stimulating, but also more worthwhile. These ideas about innocence and free will and what it means to be good in this world will stick with me for a while. And admittedly, the penguin edit from Instagram Reels will also be sticking with me for a while, but mostly, books win. Anyway, I'd better get started on reading the rest of the books in this stack, but if you want to see more dad content, he makes a special guest appearance in my video about getting out of a reading slump. Make sure you subscribe so we can hit 10K by the end of my junior year of college, like and comment, and all the good things. Okay, bye.